Many cults have become infamous examples of people's warped realities. Cults have been able to convince people to commit mass suicide, seriously hurt others, and completely disregard their own well-being. And a shocking amount of cult members see everything as a completely normal progression of events. Their realities have been drastically distorted. Phrases such as "don't drink the Kool-Aid" seem to suggest that the people in cults are capable of making sensible decisions. Actually, cult followers are often reduced to mindless zombies with no decision-making abilities. Before we talk about who and why and what, let's decide exactly what we're going to mean when we say cult, because there are many definitions. The original use of the word was in the early 17th century to describe homage paid to a deity, so Christianity would fit here. The word evolved to mean a new religious movement with abnormal beliefs or practices. So actually, Christianity in its early stages would have fit this definition as well. The most commonly used colloquial definition, now, is a group that tends to manipulate, exploit, and control its members. So, the Nazis. This is the definition that we'll be working with. So what kind of people join cults? Turns out it's all kinds of people. Tall, short, smart, stupid, young, old. There is no single characteristic that defines a cult member. There are, of course, some trends. 75% of cult members are recruited by someone they already know. Most are experiencing significant stress before they convert, such as a breakup or moving to a new city. The most susceptible age for joining a cult statistically is late adolescence. The normalcy of the people joining cults is a little scary. It's far-fetched for most people to imagine participating in a mass suicide, yet in cults such as Jonestown and Heaven's Gate, more than 900 people went along with the group and took their own lives. The transition from general population to cult member is understood to be a product of coercive persuasion, or what most people would call brainwashing. There are 6 important elements to coercive persuasion. The first is the application of physical and emotional stress. This could include deprivation of food, constant repetitive chanting, or sleep deprivation. The second element is to attribute all problems to a single cause. Hitler, an incredibly successful cult leader, blamed the problems of Germany on the entire Jewish population. The third element is unconditional love, acceptance, and attention for the cult members from the leader. The fourth element is that the cult creates a new identity for the recruits. This makes membership in the cult more important than the individual's identities. The Hare Krishna cult accomplished this by encouraging its members to change their names and wear robes. The fifth element necessary for effective coercive persuasion is entrapment. People agree to small changes initially. The severity of the requirements slowly increases, and by the time the demands are unreasonable, it's too late to back out. The final element of coercive persuasion is the control of information. This can be as drastic as a forceful severing of familial ties when the other family members disagree with the group. These elements are sufficient enough to take people from reasonable members of society to thoughtless followers. The leaders of cults are also often detached from reality. Many leaders truly believe their rhetoric. Marshall Herff Applewhite, for example, who was the leader and founder of Heaven's Gate, believed and preached that he and his followers were futuristic aliens trapped in human bodies. He preached that these aliens were genderless and sexless, so he encouraged all of his followers to abstain from all sex and shave their heads. He also encouraged his male followers to get castrated. He went along with this and got castrated himself. He also committed suicide along with his followers. Jim Jones, the leader of the People's Temple, more commonly known as Jonestown, also committed suicide along with his followers. What made these men reach this point of self-delusion? No one really knows. Both Applewhite and Jones were known as good leaders from a very early age. Jones also showed psychopathic tendencies very early on. Old neighbors report that he was obsessed with death as a child, throwing funerals for animals and killing a cat with a knife. Applewhite did not show the same tendencies as a child, but he did check himself into a psychiatric ward because he thought he was sex crazed. It was here he had his first revelation. Obviously, both of these men were not quite all there by the time they took their lives. The entire culture of cults is one of delusion. People delude themselves and each other, leading to tragic circumstances.